Greetings and salutations, Greek students. In our continued study of Biblical Greek, we're going to talk about demonstrative pronouns and their significance for the interpretation of the New Testament. Demonstrative pronouns are pronouns that allow us to point to things. Near, this, and far, that. That's essentially what we're talking about with demonstrative pronouns. Let's get into it. Demonstrative pronouns allow you to point to things, like the definite article and personal pronouns. So we've talked about autos, aute, auta. Demonstrative pronouns occur in all three genders. So like the definite article, like adjectives, demonstrative pronouns are going to agree with the things that they're modifying or referring to in case, in number and gender, and sometimes in case. Demonstratives always agree with nouns they replace, the antecedent, in number and gender. But again, the case is defined by what function is this demonstrative pronoun serving in the sentence, the clause that it finds itself in. So let's go over some of the demonstrative pronouns, the near demonstrative pronouns, which we're going to translate as this. Hutos is the nominative singular masculine. Tutu of this, the genitive masculine singular. Tuto, tuton, hutoi, tutone, tutois, tutus. That's the masculine paradigm for the near demonstrative pronoun. In the feminine, and pay attention here because it's haute, so both hutos and haute, the nominative singular, has that rough breathing mark, that H sound at the beginning. Hutos and haute. It's important to pay attention to that. Tautes, taute, tautein, hautai, tutone, tutais, tutas. That's the feminine paradigm of the demonstrative pronoun, the near demonstrative pronoun. This. Tuta, tutu, tuto, tuta, tauta, tutone, tutois, tauta in the neuter. So that's the paradigms for the near demonstrative pronoun. This. I have this pencil right here. This pencil. Then there's the remote demonstrative pronoun, that. So that demonstrative pronoun, the remote demonstrative pronoun, in the masculine, ekenos, ekenu, ekeno, ekenon, ekenoi, ekenon, ekenois, ekenus. So notice this also begins with a vowel throughout, not just in the nominative singular, but in this instance, we have the smooth breathing mark, so you don't have that H sound. It's not here. Ekene in the feminine, ekenes, ekene, ekenain, ekenai, ekenon, ekenais, ekenas. In the neuter, ekena, ekenu, ekeno, ekena, ekena, ekenon, ekenois, ekena. So these are the remote demonstrative pronouns. So I could talk about this pencil or that book up there. And that book is over there. It's the far demonstrative pronoun. But this pencil is right here. It's close by. This is the near and the remote demonstrative pronoun. So how do pronouns work? Well, they modify nouns, just like we saw with the pronoun. You can have this stone, halithos hutos, in the nominative. That slave, ekenos hadulos, tauta tatekna, these children, so that would be the near demonstrative pronoun, plural in reference to children. So predicates, demonstrative pronouns can be predicates. They can modify nouns, functioning basically like what we would expect of like an adjective almost. They're always going to occur in the predicate position, meaning that there will be no definite article before the pronoun. Predicate or demonstrative pronouns can also refer as substantives. They can be the noun. So like a pronoun where we could just talk about him, we could say that one over there, that one can just function as the noun for a sentence. And we see this happens in the New Testament. It can also be the antecedent, replacing the noun in a previous clause. So it can be translated as he, she, or they, depending on if the antecedent is masculine, feminine, neuter, singular, or plural. Let's look at an example of the use of the personal pronoun as well as the use of the demonstrative pronoun, and see a case in which paying attention to this actually helps us understand something in the New Testament that's kind of an interesting difference in the gospel narratives. So in Mark 1:11, we have the sentence, kai phone egeneta ek ton uranon. So we haven't yet seen the verb egeneta. This is from the verb ginomai, to come, and this is the past tense, the aorist tense. It's and a voice came from the heavens. So that's how we would translate this. And a voice came from the heavens. So often this is just translated as heaven, but we're going to translate literally. And this is the content of the voice. Su e hawias mu ha-agapetas, en soy eudakesa. So su e hawias mu. This is an example of the personal pronoun you, second person singular, are, and notice that this is the second person singular form of a me, I am. So you are, so we have an emphatic pronoun. You are, and we get, of course, because it's the intransitive a me, it's a predicate nominative, the son of me. You are my son. And not just my son, you are my son, the beloved. So we would usually translate this as you are my beloved son. Now, this is the adjective for beloved. You are my beloved son. In you, I am pleased. Now, this verb for pleased here is an aorist tense. It's simple past tense. We'll talk about that later. You don't need to worry about what the aorist is for now. What I want us to draw our attention to is the use of these pronouns, these personal pronouns. So in this case, what Mark is describing is a situation in which a voice comes from heaven, and this is at Jesus' baptism. And at the baptism of Jesus, what is being spoken is Mark is describing a situation in which Jesus, singular, hears a voice and says, you, not y'all, but just you, Jesus, you are my beloved son. So who's this voice speaking to? The voice is speaking to Jesus. And in you, singular, I am well pleased. If you read Mark's baptism narrative carefully, there's no indication that anybody in the scene has any notion that Jesus is the beloved son. This is not a demonstration for other people to know that Jesus in the baptism is the beloved son. In Mark chapter 1, this is the Father speaking to the Son, saying, you are my beloved son. And the voice is directed just at the singular. We get no indication in Mark that anybody else even hears this voice except Jesus. Now, in the case of Matthew's version, the demonstrative pronoun instead of the personal pronoun. Same exact story, Matthew 3:17, kai edu, and behold, phone ek tu uranon legusa. A voice from the heavens, and instead of came, we just have saying, getting the content of the speech, hutas estin hawias mu ha-agapetas. So instead of su e hawias mu, you are my beloved son, like we saw in Mark 1:11, in Matthew 3:17, we get this is my beloved son, in whom I am pleased. Now, what I really want to focus our attention on is the demonstrative pronoun in this case versus the personal pronoun in the case of Mark 1:11. So Mark's story is a story about the Father speaking to Jesus. You are my beloved Son. But in Matthew's version, in Matthew 3:17, what we have is a story in which it's not the Father speaking directly to Jesus to inform him of something or to tell him something. Instead, you have the Father speaking to an audience of people. It's not, you are my beloved Son. The voice is not directed towards Jesus. The voice is directed towards the people seeing Jesus' baptism. And the voice saying, this guy, this Jesus, this guy, let's see, right up here. This is my beloved Son. And so it's not a voice speaking to Jesus. It's a voice speaking to the crowd at the baptism of Jesus, letting the crowd know. In Mark, what you have is a scene in which the baptism of Jesus is a personal voice to Jesus. What you have in Matthew is a public declaration of Jesus' identity to the audience that is present. So thinking about how these rather minor differences in pronouns actually help us paint quite a different picture of what the Gospels are describing in these instances. So when thinking about the adjective and pronoun constructions, it's important to remember we have these 4 basic kinds of pronoun adjective constructions. The first one is the attributive adjective. And the key here with the attributive adjective is that the definite article is going to be in front of the adjective, right? When it attributes the good man, good will always, agathos will always have ha in front of it. Then there's the predicate adjective. In this case, there's no definite article in front of the adjective. So this is going to be translated, the man is good, because the definite article is just in front of the noun, but not in front of the adjective. These same syntactical features operate when it comes to the pronouns. So ha, autos, anthropos, when the definite article is in front of the pronoun, it becomes the same man. Whereas in the intensive or predicate position, where the definite article is not in front of the pronoun, but in front of the noun, ha anthropos autos, it's the man himself. So this is an important distinction syntactically to keep in mind, and Croy has a good summary of these different syntactical positions as it relates to what the meaning and translation should be on page 44.